It's breakfast time in the Liani household in a suburb of Paris. The family is Jewish, French and proud to be both. Yet last week the Lianis applied to emigrate to Israel. They've had enough of the verbal abuse, the cries of dirty Jew or go back to your country. Their 4 children are already learning Hebrew and they're young enough to start a new life. And above all, they believe Israel will do a better job of protecting them after last month's terrorist attacks in France.
Everybody see what happened those last weeks, and we're afraid that it will start again and again, more and more. That's what we're afraid. So we are thinking to move to Israel.
Will you miss France?
Of course.
Yes, of course. We born here, we live here, we married here, we meet here. It's our culture. It's French culture.
This is our country. Yes. Where we live here all the time. So, of course, it
will be difficult.
It's sad to move. It's because of that kind of reason mainly.
4 Jews were shot dead by a gunman inside this kosher supermarket on January the 9th. High noon for French Jewry, in a country where recorded violent anti-Semitic incidents doubled last year. The fear now is that France is papering over the cracks, that the remarkable show of togetherness we witnessed here afterwards is fading along with these remembrance flowers. France, like much of Europe, is focused on stopping jihadists from leaving for Syria in search of war. But in the meantime, thousands of Jews are planning trips to Israel in search of peace. Last month, 3,000 French Jews applied to emigrate to Israel, compared with over 7,000 for all of last year, which was in itself a doubling of the figures of the year before. It's not an exodus, but it does send out a deeply worrying message that terrorism may be winning where French society has failed. The battle against intolerance took another blow with this attack on hundreds of Jewish graves in eastern France last week, prompting a visit by President Hollande himself, promising more protection. He's constantly offering reassurance. Quel est votre message aux Juifs français ce soir? On Monday night, we watched him meeting Jewish leaders at their annual dinner. He said he would toughen the law against racist hate crimes with better regulation of the internet.
La France le sait. La France le dit.
France knows it, France says it, France shows it. France stood up a month ago to say no to fanaticism and no to anti-Semitism. Jews are at home in France. It's the anti-Semites who have no place in the Republic.
But 1 month on, France feels fractious once again. The country's leading Muslim cleric boycotted this dinner in fury after this Jewish leader accused young Muslims of being responsible for all violent crimes against Jews. Israel's immigration agency is housed in this deliberately anonymous Paris office block. Its chairman reckons 15,000 Jews will emigrate this year, though the French government's anti-racism czar refuses to call that a failure.
I wouldn't never have a word against or critical against a French Jew who would have this decision to go to Israel. That's a personal choice. But my message, our message, is you are in France here, it's your country.
And if 15,000 Jews do leave this year for Israel, I guess you'll have to say, well, we failed. We failed to reassure them.
We'll see. We'll see.
This is the biggest Jewish school in Paris, with 1,600 pupils, in the district which has recorded the highest number of anti-Semitic attacks. Some 10,000 troops have been guarding Jewish institutions since last month. Only in Israel itself would a creche be afforded the same level of protection as this. But the more troops to reassure, the more abnormal life becomes. While swapping France for Israel may seem like replacing one potential war zone with a very real one. At the Voltaire bar, Fabrice Teicher, sixth generation French, thinks it's time for his Jewish family to go wandering again in search of freedom, though not to the promised land.
It's not the place where we would feel most at ease, even though we have many ties with it, cultural and familial ones, and also we have two boys, and if moving to Israel would be a personal choice, it would impose them to go to the army when they turn 17 or 18, and it's well, we don't have the courage to make them take these risks.
So where will you go? Canada? America?
We have a large Excel worksheet where we write all the options down. I think for most of the reason I don't want to live in Europe anymore because of anti-Semitism, but also economical crisis and other kinds of things. So we're thinking outside of Europe, maybe North America, maybe Asia, for instance. For me, I would prefer Asia or all kinds of continents, Australia, I don't know. We're currently checking all the options.
Israel's chief recruiting sergeant is its prime minister. Benjamin Netanyahu busily welcoming Jews, while Mr. Hollande is trying hard to hold on to them. Though the rabbi who hosted them at the biggest synagogue here last month says it doesn't bother him.
Qu'est-ce que vous voulez qu'un chef d'État d'Israël?
What do you expect a head of state of Israel to say? It's in his interest, and it is legitimate. You must not forget that the state of Israel is the dream for all Jews. There is another reality. As soon as Jews think they are in danger, they're ready with their suitcases to flee elsewhere.
This Israeli journalist had himself filmed being spat at and verbally abused when he recently spent a day walking in Paris. Yoav Hattab was simply out shopping at his local supermarket. He paid for it with his life when he was gunned down last month. Yet for now, most of France's 500,000 Jews are staying put. Among them Yoav's friend Sasha, too frightened of reprisals to give us his second name.
Going to Israel? Maybe not. Maybe one day, but certainly not straight away, because I'm convinced that staying in France is the best plan for now. We must not run away because we're afraid. In fact, we must stay and prove to these people with hatred in their mouths that they won't win. Because that is what they want. They want to scare us and make us run away, and that will never be the case.
The Lianis are not prepared to wait. They reckon the issue of young radicalized Muslims will take years to address. For them, it's time to get out, not time to repeat the mistakes of the past by staying until it's too late. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, Paris.